Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are looking at humanity's absolute longest-running technological saga. Now, when we think of tech upgrades, we usually picture our phones, our laptops, or maybe those annoying software patches that download overnight. But the truth is, the most profound piece of technology we have has literally been undergoing a continuous, brilliant series of hardware and software upgrades for the last 5 millennia.
So let me throw a question out to you right at the top here, just to kind of challenge our modern assumptions about technology. What do you think is humanity's greatest technological invention? Fire? The wheel? Maybe the microchip? Or the internet?
Well, it's actually none of those. It's the book. I know, right? We rarely think of a bound stack of paper as technology, but the book is essentially a constantly evolving piece of hardware designed for the ultimate human purpose: data storage and transmission. It's a device that captures human knowledge and lets it transcend time and space. And to really understand how we got to the sleek screens we read on today, we have to look at the spectacular updates this device has received throughout history.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today's chronological journey. We'll start with the first hardware, then the shift to bound pages, followed by the Chinese paper revolution, Gutenberg's mechanical masterpiece, and finally, the industrial digital shift.
Section 1. The first hardware, clay. Traveling way back to Mesopotamia around 3500 BC, the Sumerians needed a reliable way to store data. So they looked around at what they had in absolute abundance: mud. They created our very first physical storage drives by pressing a reed stylus into soft clay to create wedge-shaped marks, a system called cuneiform, and then they baked these clay tablets to lock the data in permanently. But there was a catch. These baked tablets were heavy and incredibly fragile. You couldn't exactly toss one into a backpack. So to protect these vital data drives, early users solved their UX, or user experience problems, by storing them inside physical clay jars. Yep, the original book jackets were literally just heavy pieces of pottery.
But clay had a major bug. It was terrible for portability. To fix this, around 3000 BC, the Egyptians released a massive portability upgrade: the papyrus scroll. Made from reeds growing right along the Nile, papyrus was lightweight, rollable, and much easier to transport. And the Phoenicians, who were the great merchants of the ancient world, acted kind of like the ancient internet. They traded this new hardware all across the Mediterranean, spreading the technology everywhere like wildfire.
Section 2. The shift to bound pages.
Now, as revolutionary as the papyrus scroll was, it definitely wasn't perfect. If you've ever tried to find a specific sentence in a 30-foot-long scroll, you know it's an absolute nightmare. It's awkward to read, it requires 2 hands, and the edges wear out super fast from constant unrolling. So the Greeks and Romans fixed these bugs. They took the long scroll, chopped it into smaller, uniform pieces, and sewed them together at one edge. They called this the codex. It's the familiar bound book format we all use today. Suddenly, you could easily browse, flip to a specific page, and the rigid covers protected the data inside. Honestly, it was a total game changer.
But before we move on, I gotta share this fascinating hardware bypass from the other side of the world. Between the 11th and 13th centuries, the Inca Empire in South America developed an entirely different data storage system called the quipu. Get this. They didn't use an alphabet at all. Instead, they stored complex data, like census figures, taxes, and history, entirely via knots on hanging cords. It was even color-coded: red threads for war, white threads for peace. It's just a brilliant reminder that human ingenuity will always find a way to record information, whatever materials happen to be at hand.
Section 3. The Chinese paper revolution. Before this point, people were writing on heavy bamboo strips or incredibly expensive silk. But heading over to Han Dynasty China around 105 CE, a director of the imperial workshops named Kai Lun perfected an ingeniously simple new recipe. You soak plant fibers like hemp or tree bark until it's a mushy pulp. Press those fibers flat and dry them in sheets on wooden frames. Boom! Paper. Eventually, they figured out they could replace slow-growing hemp with fast-growing bamboo, making this technology cheap, scalable, and incredibly high quality.
Paper was so successful it spawned entirely new apps. It wasn't just for books anymore. It was used for maps, armor, packaging, and famously, money. The 13th century explorer Marco Polo was absolutely stunned by this. He wrote that the coinage of paper money was authenticated with as much form and ceremony as if it were actually of pure gold or silver, stamped with the royal seal tinged with vermilion. This new paper tech completely revolutionized global trade.
However, this financial software worked almost a little too efficiently. Because paper money was so easy to print compared to mining heavy copper or silver, it led to a massive bug in the system: rampant inflation. The value of paper money crashed so hard that it all but disappeared. Wide circulation of reliable banknotes wouldn't even become a reality again until 1866. Crazy, right?
Section 4. Gutenberg's mechanical masterpiece.
While paper was transforming Asia, Europe was still stuck relying on monks and scribes painstakingly copying books by hand. But fast forward to the 1450s, and Johannes Gutenberg, a goldsmith from Mainz, Germany, had this wild vision he called Das Werk der Bücher, the work of the books. He wanted to transition away from manual, monastic handwriting to the automated mass production of texts using movable metal type. Think of it as the ultimate copy-paste upgrade. Instead of writing a page, you would assemble a page using individual metal letters, ink them up, and press them onto paper.
Now, here is a truly staggering number for you. 290. To print his famous Bible, Gutenberg didn't just need 26 letters. Because of uppercase, lowercase, punctuation marks, and specific connected letter forms called ligatures, he had to design and cast a mind-blowing 290 distinct master characters, and he would arrange thousands of these on a single page entirely backwards by hand.
And Gutenberg's genius wasn't just the metal type. He had to upgrade the ink too. Traditional water-based ink used by scribes was completely useless here. It simply slipped right off the metal letters. So Gutenberg invented a brand new metallic varnish. It was oil-based, shiny, and packed with copper, lead, and titanium. It stuck to the metal perfectly and transferred a crisp, beautiful black image right onto the paper.
Let's talk about the layout itself. A lot of people claim the beautiful dimensions of the Gutenberg Bible are based on the famous golden ratio. Actually, scratch that, it's a total myth. The exact mathematical formula Gutenberg used was a 1 to 1.4 ratio. This was a strictly established medieval mathematical standard for a paper size known as royal paper. It ensured the proportions remained visually perfect when those massive sheets were folded down into individual pages.
Today, the physical data surviving from Gutenberg's original print run is incredibly rare. There are only 25 complete copies, 24 substantially complete copies, and 16 fragments left in the entire world. They are so treasured that a complete copy hasn't even been sold since 1978. Gutenberg's masterpiece truly kickstarted the modern era of mass communication.
Section 5. The Industrial Digital Shift.
The leap to digital happened faster than any previous upgrade. In 1930, a writer named Bob Brown wrote a sci-fi concept about reading books on a machine, calling them readies. Just 4 decades later, in 1971, Project Gutenberg began digitizing the U.S. Declaration of Independence. And then, the watershed moment. In 2007, the Amazon Kindle was released, bringing digital ink to the masses, and it completely sold out in just over 5 hours.
When we transitioned from the printed page to the iPad or the e-reader or the smartphone you might have in your pocket right now, we didn't invent something brand new. We just downloaded the latest software update in a millennia-old human process. You see, the book is not some dusty, static object sitting on a shelf. It's a highly dynamic, adaptable technology driven by our absolute fundamental need to share knowledge.
We've gone from baking clay in the sun to tapping glass screens in the dark. The format changes, but the drive to record our stories, that never stops. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If the book has adapted this much from clay to screens, what exactly will our books look like in another 5,000 years? Are they going to be beamed directly into our minds? Will they be interactive holograms? Whatever form it takes, the technological saga of the book is far from over. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.